Joshua Duggar of 19 Kids and Counting fame was sentenced to 151 months of imprisonment for CSAM charges in 2022. Over the last 3 years, he has made several different legal arguments to try to get out of prison. In 2024, Josh's appeal was rejected by the Supreme Court, for example. This week, in late July of 2025, Josh Duggar filed a pro se treatise. He currently has no attorney, so it's assumed that he filed this all on his own. In the early documentaries, Josh claimed he dreamed of becoming a lawyer one day, so I guess his life dreams have come true. But regardless, today we're going to look through the motion he filed this week because he honestly spills a little tea and gives a little bit more info, and also just seeing what he's doing in his antics of trying to get out of prison.
Just it's really fake and gay. And I am actually an expert on all matters that are fake and gay.
So let's start off with the first issue he finds with his trial. So, as many of you know, during the trial, Josh tried to blame Caleb Williams. If you're new here, Caleb Williams is a family friend who occasionally worked with Josh. In his 20s, he had relations with a minor teenager, which resulted in the birth of a child, which is obviously awful. During Josh's trial, he tried to place blame on Caleb, but was still found guilty, of course. So here he's trying to say he wanted to blame a man named Randall Berry as well as Caleb during the trial, as he had access to the HP computer during the time period of the CSAM download, but was blocked by the court from presenting this theory. He also claims that the prosecution claimed Randall Berry did not start working at the lot until after the download of the CSAM, but Josh is claiming that is untrue. He claims he can prove that Randall did work there at the time, but was blocked by the court from presenting such evidence. I honestly don't know if that's true or not. If Randall Berry was, he has proof that he was working there. Who the hell knows? So here's the second issue he's claiming to have with his trial. Here he's claiming that the government expert, James Futrell, altered evidence and lied under oath. He's saying here that Futrell lied about overriding the computer and that the computer presented at trial was not a perfect replica. The next issue he has is with Agent Gerald Faulkner's testimony. Faulkner was one of the agents who aided in raiding Joshua's car lot. He was also one of the agents who interviewed Josh on tape. I don't know if y'all have seen that tape, but it's pretty interesting. But anyways, during the trial, Faulkner testifies that before filming of the interview began, Josh asked the agents, quote, "Has someone been downloading Child P?" Josh is claiming in this filing that he never said any of this and that there's no evidence to support it other than hearsay from Faulkner, and that it shouldn't been allowed to have been said at trial. So issue 4, here is where it gets interesting to me personally. On this issue, Josh calls out Bobye Holt's pretrial testimony. Also, just to jog your memory, Bobye Holt is the wife of Jim Holt and was a Duggar family friend during the period where Josh abused his sisters, and he was even betrothed to Bobby's daughter in the 2000s. Anyways, Josh claims that Bobby testified to a 2005 confession of his, but it was never legally reported, which is an issue. He then says her pretrial testimony should not have been allowed for that reason, and also since no one could corroborate it, it was emotions-based, and it came after years of animosity and media attacks, which he's meaning from the Holts, but I feel like the Holts didn't ever say really anything about them until that trial. I feel like that was the catalyst for the few things that the Holts have said, so I don't know how that would hold up because that isn't really true. But anyway, he also said that the court failed to acknowledge her credibility since her own family has had abusive history, which resulted in legal issues. Now, obviously, we know that there have been legal issues with the Holts relating to abuse of their children, but I'm unsure if there were any legal issues prior to Joshua's December 2021 trial. Josh only mentioned in his filing a 2023 case against Bobby and Jim, but of course that was after his trial, so I'm not sure how the jury was supposed to question her credibility when that hadn't even happened yet. He also mentioned that Bobby cooperated with the prosecution but refused to talk to the defense counsel before the trial. He also claims she was hostile towards Josh, Anna, and his immediate Duggar family. He claims that she made numerous anti-Duggar public statements. He includes a Facebook comment Bobby made which wrote about Anna, quote, "She will never be free until his death." I never saw such a comment personally, so I'm not sure if she ever even said that. Josh continues in the filing to say, in many ways, she resembled Sorry, this is a direct quote. In many ways, she resembled a bitter ex who hated Joshua since she couldn't have him for her own daughter. That that is actually an insane statement for Josh to make. And it was really like the only shocking thing written in this filing, in my opinion, at least from my perspective. But that was just an absolutely crazy thing to say. He goes on to mention that the Holts were featured in the Shiny Happy People documentary, which defamed his family. He makes note that these things were not disclosed to the jury, but everything he just stated occurred after the trial. So I think he's just hoping the recipients of this file don't put that timeline together. But it's kind of like a lot of these things are like, how were they supposed to present this to the jury when this hadn't even happened yet? It just makes no sense. In his fifth issue, Josh goes into the fact he wasn't able to accuse Caleb Williams during the trial. For context, Caleb was proved to be in another state when the CSAM was downloaded. Josh claims Caleb was a remote access computer tech for the state of Illinois, but I'm not sure if that's accurate, or if so, when he started that job, and if it was even after, the trial or during the times that the CSAM was downloaded. Josh pretty much says he should be allowed to talk about Caleb's CSA behavior and background. Also, apparently, Josh hired a retired FBI agent as an investigator. Said agent interviewed Caleb, and Josh claims that the agent said, quote, he was among one of the most visibly nervous individuals ever questioned. In his sixth issue, Josh claimed the jury should not have been able to hear the details of CSA he committed against his sisters. He pretty much says those were confidential juvenile records that were illegally disclosed to the media via a FOIA request. He goes on to say that this was a politically motivated leak of information. He goes on to talk about how he and Jim Bob have been vocally, enthusiastically supportive of Donald Trump. He also makes special mention that his charges came 100 days into Biden's presidency, like that was something crazy. But then he doesn't mention that he was literally raided and this investigation began during Trump's presidency, so it doesn't really make any sense that it would be some kind of Biden Democrat collusion when literally this whole process started under Trump's administration. But anyway, he also says that the initial exposure of this information to the media, quote, caused significant harm to the Duggar sisters and created overlapping civil litigation in the same court and before the same judge as a criminal case. So here he's saying it's a structural conflict of interest. But I also find it quite rich for Josh to even mention that something caused significant harm to his sisters, considering he started all this mess. Then in issue 7, Josh says, quote, a statement attributed to the defense was released under duress and pressure from corporate entities associated with TLC and Discovery Communications, threatening cancellation and contractual penalties. The defendant did not write or consent to the statement's creation. Despite this, the prosecution repeatedly used the statement as if it were a voluntary confession. So he later clarifies he's talking about a statement attributed to him in August of 2015 that was on his parents' Facebook page. In this statement, he admitted to cheating on his wife and having an addiction to online adult content. So Josh is now claiming he was not consulted about this statement, even though it was attributed to him. He's basically trying to say that his parents posted that on their Facebook and website at pressure from TLC and that he had nothing to do with it, which I find extremely, extremely unlikely, considering Jim Bob is one of Josh's biggest D writers. But although I could definitely see Josh being over at rehab and that, and then Jim Bob trying to protect his bag and posting that just to save face. However, I mean, he definitely did that. I'm sure like Anna looked at the statement and everything. I mean, it was very obvious that you did that, girl. Like, and also I definitely do think that it is very likely that he approved of that statement to try to save the TV show. But anyway, all right, y'all, that was pretty much everything I wanted to cover from this newest filing. I wonder, after this gets likely rejected, I wonder what his next move will be to try to get out of prison. I feel like he's just, for the next 100 and however some months, is just going to be trying to get out of prison early, just constantly. But it is very interesting. This is like his first attempt to get out of prison in like a filing that he authored himself. So certain parts are very interesting, and it's coming like directly from the horse's mouth. So I find that interesting. But anyway, I'll talk to y'all later.
Just it's really fake and gay. And I am actually an expert on all matters that are fake and gay.